Hey guys, it's Zia. Welcome back. Today I want to do another edition in Casper's collections to talk about all the products that actually work for my skin tone. As you may very well be able to tell from looking at me, I am ghost white. I am very, very pale. I have quite a lot of freckles and I also have a lot of redness. You can't really tell today because I'm wearing some lovely foundation, but for the most part I get really red and I blush red. So finding things that actually match my skin is actually kind of difficult. I mean, it's nothing in comparison to dark skin people, but oh my gosh, I have a hard time, especially at the drugstore. Generally if they don't stock darker shades, they're not stocking my shade either, and that's a huge generalization. Please don't take that like too seriously. I wanted to talk about some stuff that actually works for me, both high-end and from the drugstore, because I know how difficult it can be to swatch everything that's in the shade Porcelain that isn't actually light enough. I think it's a touchy subject, but I know I struggled for a long time growing up in a predominantly sunny country where I was this pale and getting teased a lot for being this pale, not being able to tan was a common occurrence in high school, especially because people like Rihanna, who I love, and Shakira and things like that have a deeper complexion. That was kind of all the rage. And I definitely went through periods of using fake tan when I was a teenager. I didn't like it, and the more I learn about what's going on in the world, the more I feel uncomfortable with ever having done that. I don't think it should matter. Anyway, getting on to it, I wanted to talk about things I found that actually work for me. Being in Australia, it's hard to find these sort of things. I'm sure if I lived in somewhere like, you know, England or Britain or whatever, I'd have a much easier time and I'd be able to find all these sorts of things. But living where I do, in the climate I do, not so easy. So anyway, I thought we'd start with base products. The first one I have to talk about, which you've seen me use before, is the Nars new foundation, the Radiance foundation, and I'm obsessed with it. This makes me look glowy and healthy. I can get a very light coverage and I'm in love. Every time I use this I feel angelic. It is so cool. I have it in the shade Oslo, which is this shade here. As you can see, it is super duper pale and I really love it for that reason, but also the consistency is really nice. It's not too heavy and you can still see my freckles, which I really like. The next one I have to talk about, which I've also spoken about before, is this Covergirl Clean Fresh liquid foundation. I'd call it more a tinted moisturizer than a foundation. I mean, you are not getting foundation level coverage. The Nars one you can build up, this one, no chance. It is way too absorbent. So I have it here in the shade Porcelain. This is also super light, but a little more forgiving. I think this is good because with like generally lighter coverage stuff, it doesn't matter if the shades aren't perfect because you will see a lot more skin through it. But it doesn't have an orange undertone, which is awesome for someone like me. That's a very cool undertone. This one I actually just picked up today, so I can't vouch for how good it is, but it's the Covergirl and Olay Simply Ageless 3-in-1 foundation, and it looks like this. It's got a little swirl in it, which is really cool. It's 210 Classic Ivory. This shade range is limited, at least what we have in stores. I am not very impressed with the shade range. However, I think this white stuff going through it is why it works for me, because the product itself looks too dark, but thanks to the whiteness in the moisturizer in it, it kind of softens it. When I put it on my hand, it looks like a pretty vibrant pink. Pretty terrifying, but when I swatched it in store, it does turn into a much lighter color, so you might want to keep that in mind with picking it up. It smells really good too. It smells like a moisturizer. It doesn't smell artificial like a perfume or a fragrance, but it certainly has a nice skincare smell to it, which I very much enjoyed. So I'll keep you posted on how this one's going. Moving on to the next product, concealer. I have this YSL Touche Eclat concealer pen. I would still call it a concealer. I know the name got changed to a radiance, like a luminizer or whatever. I would definitely call this a concealer. It's a very light coverage concealer, but I'd still call it a concealer. And this is in the shade 2. There is a shade, again, lighter than this one, however, it is yellow. This comes out a very, very peachy pink, and it sort of softens out to a really baby pink, which actually matches my skin really, really well. So I'm super in love with it. I've used it forever, since I was like 16, and I'm super, super happy with it. So if you can afford it, I'd recommend. The next two are new, and I love them so much. I'm obsessed. So this is the Dior Backstage concealer, and I have it in the shade 0CH, which is like a cool rosy tone, I believe it's called. I'm in love with it. It's again another brush tip applicator, so I think I like these a lot more because you can get a much sort of lighter coverage than I find with the doe foot. I just got this like a few weeks ago and I love it. To be honest, it might rival my YSL one. I'm not sure yet. I hope so because it's cheaper. But this has a lot more coverage than that YSL pen I just spoke about. I'd still call it a light coverage, but this is certainly a tiny bit more than that one. I really, really like it. I do have to blend it out relatively quickly, and it's more of a thicker consistency, but it has no trouble blending out as long as it's not too long. Also, this one looks a little bit less natural, so I find I would wear foundation if I were to use this. Now I have another new one from the drugstore. This is the Maybelline SuperStay concealer, and oh my gosh, look at this packaging. I'm in love with this like 3-dimensional diamond. Oh my god, I'm obsessed with it. I brought it because of the packaging, despite not having had anyone speak about it, and I actually love it. It is incredible. This is in the shade 05 and in classic ivory, and oh my gosh, this is incredible. It says full coverage. It does have like a doe foot applicator there. I would agree with that. I think you could definitely get full coverage with this. I can turn a lot of liquid products into light coverage by just applying a little bit, as long as they're smooth enough and liquidy enough to like sort of blend. So I find I can still get light coverage with this. I'd say this is actually light coverage. The other two I'd probably call more sheer. But this is definitely light, and you could build it up, and it is so flawless. It is so beautiful. My fiance was just looking for a concealer, and I'm like, get this one. He wanted something with a lot more coverage, probably medium, and I'm absolutely in love with it. I couldn't recommend this higher, and I cannot believe no one is speaking about it. I'm so happy I picked it up despite the risk. The next category I have is setting powders. I'm super fussy with setting powders. I've only ever found 2 I've liked out of all of them I've tried, and I've tried a lot. To be honest, it's something really difficult. I find if they make it in a white shade, it's got a lot of cast on it, and it can look a little chalky and powdery. If they make it with a tint, I find the tint darkens everything on my face and looks very unnatural compared to my neck. So I really am fussy. This is one of the hardest things to please me with. So the first one I have here is by Shiseido. It is their Synchro Skin Invisible Silk Pressed Powder. I have it in translucent. I really, really like this. I pretty much is the one I use every day. It's really, really pretty. I never use the sponge. I always use a brush. I'm not interested in putting a sponge on my face, but I really, really like it. I think it's like super soft and silky. It disappears so quickly into the skin. It's not heavy, and I don't know if this is translucent, to be honest. It looks to me like it's got a bit of a tint. I don't know. It might just be the blurring effect I get, but I'm a little sus when something says translucent and it's not in a clear shade or like a whiter shade. The next one I have to talk about, I haven't spoken about before. It's the L'Oreal Infallible Magic Loose Powder. And this is in a very pale blue shade. This is actually my favorite powder ever, except I don't have the hand discipline for loose powder. I always feel it. I've got super shaky hands. So loose powder and I are not friends. Otherwise I would use this every day. I wish they made it in a pressed, because honestly I find this so difficult to sort of like open and sift out and tap some there. I find powder goes everywhere. It even lands in my hair, makes the cat sneeze when he's annoying me while I do my makeup, like, oh boy. But yeah, I really love this. If you're good at using loose powder or you don't mind the mess, definitely pick this up. You don't see the blue, that's the other thing. I need to be clear about that. It just makes you look glowing and healthy, and I feel honestly a bit like regal when I wear this sort of powder. It feels really cool. Alright, coming up next we have bronzers, and I say bronzers in air quotes because really they're contour powders. I have not found a bronzer that isn't orange on my skin. I really struggle with that. All of them have warm undertones unless they contour. I do have one here that says bronzer, but I think most people would classify it as a contour due to the shade. Basically I need something cool toned, but if it's too grey toned I will look casket ready. So it's a really difficult balance to get right. The first one I have, super expensive, is the Kevyn Aucoin sculpting powder in light, and this is amazing. It is made for people with rosy undertones, and it's like not too grey but not too orange toned. It looks more orange toned in the pan than it swatches, that's for sure. So just keep that in mind. I absolutely love it, and due to the limitation of available products in this bronzer category for my skin tone, I do think this is worth it. If you've got something cheaper in the same shade in your country, I wouldn't bother. It's not that incredible in terms of formula, but due to the difficulty finding it, I would definitely spend the money on this. The next one I finally got, I've heard it's a dupe for that. It is the Flower Beauty Heatwave Luminous Bronzer, and this is in the shade Sunrise L1, and it looks like this. I love it. It looks like the moon. This is so pretty. Unlike the Kevyn Aucoin one though, this is much more pigmented. I really go in with light hand. I'm very careful because a lot comes off on this, and if you like more medium full coverage makeup, it'd be awesome. But for myself that doesn't really wear much, it can look a lot very quickly, and I can look a bit like a ventriloquist doll. So I only use a tiny bit, but I absolutely love this despite that, and I even reach for it a lot over my Kevyn Aucoin because I love it that much, and I cannot believe there is something like this in the drugstore. It blows my mind. And the final product I have to talk about, and arguably the most difficult product for me to find, is highlighter. I tried the Charlotte Tilbury one in Spotlight and I found it to look pretty unnatural when I'm in regular lighting, pretty yellow toned. It was really hard. It is really hard to find highlighters that aren't stark white but look sort of more natural and more relaxed. I really went on a big swatch hunt. I've tried multiple ones, I've ordered multiple ones before, but finding something that's like glowy but not strip of white like zinc is pretty difficult. So to start with, I have one from the drugstore. This is the NYX Duochromatic illuminating powder in Snow Rose. I actually brought this off eBay, funnily enough. I saw it like online in America, but you could not get this in Australia, and I love it. It is a white with a baby pink shift to it. I don't know if that's picking up, but oh my gosh, this is so beautiful. I'm not a fan of the formula. I wish someone else made this color, but I haven't been able to find it that's this subtle. It's a really, really subtle shift. It's not super duochrome like an eyeshadow or like other duochrome products. It's really, really subtle, and I'm just in love with it. This is my favorite shade anyone could ever make in a highlight. Hopefully someone else makes it that isn't NYX though, because the formula isn't the best. It sort of sits on the skin a bit. It really gives me a bit of a hand workout blending it in, I must say. The second last product we have to talk about is from R.E.M. Beauty. These are highlights I'm sure you've heard about them before. This one in Mama Earth is incredible for cool toned skin. I saw a guy on TikTok use this who had a very yellow undertone and a very medium complexion, and it looked pretty ridiculous. But oh my goodness, I love this. It looks super intimidating in the pan, but when you like actually put it on, it's just a green reflect. So it only looks like a little green at certain angles, otherwise it looks kind of white, and I absolutely love it. I think it is so stunning, and I think it is beautiful. It's technically meant to be used as more of a highlight topper, but honestly I use it by itself. You see how just that one light, like I was so happy with this. I was very intimidated by the pan shade when it arrived, but I'm really, really happy I got it. And finally we have the newest thing to my collection that I cannot put down. It is the best quality, it is the best looking, and it is the most diverse. And I cannot believe I'm sitting here and I'm about to say there's a highlighter palette that suits my skin tone. And I'm not talking about, oh, don't use 90% of the shades or half of them. I'm saying I can use these. This is from Dior. It's the Dior Backstage. This is from Dior. It's the Dior Backstage Rose Gold highlighter palette or quad, and oh my god, I am in love with it. This is dangerous because I got those Dior things recently and I'm falling in love, and I don't have the budget to buy Dior makeup usually, so this is a dangerous game. But these are the shades just here, and I absolutely love them. We've got a pink that's a lot softer when you put it on. We've got a gold that's super intense, but I usually put it on like the inner corner of my eyes, and I've even used it as eyeshadow. I'm really obsessed with using this one as eyeshadow. We've got a white one that's again white but not super insane or super crazy looking. It's a very natural sort of white. I'd say this is my most natural shade in terms of a highlight. And then we've got one that's sort of a very, very light, like coppery sort of gold. It's like a very, very touch, and it's not too yellow toned. It's more orange toned, which actually works really, really well because it doesn't look like I'm C3PO. This is incredible, incredible, incredible. And if it's in your budget and you haven't tried it, absolutely do, because I am obsessed. And as someone that doesn't always love highlight, mainly due to the difficulty of finding highlight and the money wasted on buying highlights online that I couldn't swatch, I'm in love. I am absolutely in love, and I cannot believe, like, I just can't believe there's a highlighter palette where I can use 75% of the shades. That's just crazy to me. Anyway, so they were all my favorite base products I have in my collection right now. I really hope that you enjoyed watching it and learning about it. At the end of the day, I'm complaining about nothing, but I really like makeup. It's really special to me, and there are bigger problems, but sometimes it's nice just to nitpick and focus on like the smaller problems and things like that that affect us and make 14-year-old me feel very insecure. So anyway, I hope you guys really liked it, and stay tuned for more videos like this where I talk about makeup and do more cosplays and things like that. Okay, bye.